Where the talk is the blitz.
She watched the other one today though. Still, the one with Kimmy and about narcissism. That one I had to kind of like take a bit of a back seat because I knew a lot less than what I thought I knew. I've never really talked about narcissism. It's just a word that was there that I'd come across that I'd never really analysed. It would just come across in literature or whatever it was, or adverts, but that was the first time we actually sat down and they was talking about it because Kimmy said he thinks it's important that we have a conversation about it, man.
I mean, I suppose it is important. I don't think it's that deep of a subject.
Well, he's talking about the condition of narcissism, not the state of being, because you have the state of being depressed, and then you have the diagnosis of depression.
Yeah. Okay. So, is he saying there's a
group of people out there that are suffering from narcissism, like depression?
Like it's a condition.
Yes, as a condition.
I don't think there's probably a better word for it than a condition. It's more like a
disorder.
Yeah, disorder is probably the right word.
I don't know. I think condition is still fine.
It is a condition.
Because a disorder is a condition. But yeah, all right then. Disorder. Well, disorder puts that negative context on it. I suppose condition doesn't just ascribe
it is negative though. It's a negative quality.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Do you know what then? Do you know what?
Is there anything desirable about narcissism?
Well, it's just like autism and those things. They might be if you channel it in the right way, and hence me moving on to this thing. So I must have been on YouTube.
I think when you channel it in the right way, that's called confidence, isn't it?
With narcissism, but I'm thinking also with depression and things as well. There are ways, or autism, and so all the so-called disorders. There may be ways that you can use them beneficially. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. And the reason why I'm saying that is, and I might be wrong in saying it, but there was one program I was watching, one YouTube channel. In fact, I know it was School of Greatness. Yeah, I'll have to put you onto that. It's a great fucking some ex football or basketball player who white basketball player as well, who has set up a YouTube channel podcast called the School of Greatness, and all he has on there is just fucking great people who have achieved so much. And it's fucking inspirational. The channel's bad. Yeah, School of Greatness out there. And one of the people he had on there, he had a doctor of psychology or some shit. Somebody had somebody on there, some specialist, and they were talking about or what I would perceive to be some kind of specialist. They were talking about data and stuff. But anyway, to cut to the point, they were saying that in our and they were using data to back what they were saying. I can't remember if it was a man or woman. I think it was a woman. Anyway, they were saying that the conditions, the things that we call conditions and disorders today, are actually stages of behavior. So for example, they were saying they should never say that you have depression. They were saying that instead you should consider it that your particular time in your life with what you're going through, you're in the stage of depression that you're moving through. You haven't got, or they're talking about it like it's the end.
Is this just
lane?
Is this just woke snowflake?
No, they said that they had data to back it. They had scientific data to back it. So what they were saying was, what the claim was, was that the doctors already know this, but the language that we use is the false language. But that the medical establishment already know that it's just you want. And I'm trying to think of another one that's not just depression. I'm trying to think of another what's it called? Fucking, because I'm thinking of the girls that was around before. Personality disorder. Yeah. What's the other one? Fucking split personality and fucking all those kind of things. Yeah. Those kind of ones. So let's say personality disorder.
Schizophrenia.
Maybe not schizophrenia, because schizophrenia may be more of a biological disposition, where these doctors, the data seem to state or determine that it was more not the biology, but the particular behavior or habitual point of where they were at that point in time, and it made sense in that respect. I mean, schizophrenia is something that you may not be able to control. I don't know. Whereas borderline personality disorder, or those of that nature,
bipolar as well,
or bipolar, that as well. There you go. We're getting to them. They are more of like there's things that you can do to move out of that state. It's like being depressed. See, being depressed and borderline personality disorder, and what did you say?
It's bipolar.
Bipolar.
Yeah.
I believe, and I'm not a doctor, but schizophrenia seems like it's different. It's like that's more of a biological condition.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones are personality
the other ones,
disorders.
Personality disorders. You can be trained to move out of that phase of
psychopath
behavior,
for that kind of shit, like psychopaths, sociopaths.
Yeah, psychopaths and sociopaths.
Or there's some
Can they be trained, but they don't want to be trained?
Don't know.
Especially a sociopath.
Well, that would be the same with the borderline personality people then, because
that would be the same, yeah.
And especially now that society is accommodating them by explaining these disorders or explaining them as disorders and conditions. I mean, they're definitely a condition. But are they a transitioning? Are they a transitioning station? Are they like a train station where the train is coming through, and at the moment it's just parked up at that station, but it's supposed to come out of that station and move on to the next stage, whether that's a better condition, more beneficial condition, or in a different condition that's also considered a disorder, on its journey to enlightenment. And what these doctors were assumed to be saying was that these disorders should be gone through. They shouldn't be perceived as something as what they are. So they would say you are borderline personality disorder. You have it, as in that's what you are, as opposed to you only have that currently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have it currently. But all you need to do is A, B, and C. You move through past that. It's just the stage where you're at the moment.
Yeah, of course. So what we're
like drug addiction. Yeah,
it's curable, for want of a better word, because saying it's curable already puts negative connotations on it.
Curable.
Well,
you could can't you have positive things that you can be cured of?
If it's positive, do you need to be cured? Because
curing let's try and think of something.
You're ending
it's I don't know.
Particular
too much
state.
of something is obviously not, because you could have too much of good things that we would consider good, but too much of them would automatically be bad.
Yeah,
but could you
turn bad after a bit? Yeah,
but too much. Yeah, maybe that by default that is true, but I don't know. Can you be?
Can't be cured of a good thing. That doesn't make sense. That's an oxymoron.
You might be
if
right.
Ever I did hear one.
It might be paradoxical for real.
If I'm using that.
No, I think that's
using that word right.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to use it.
I think oxymoronic. I think it would be in that particular thing, but oxymoron is also a thing. Yeah, I think it would be where it's basically opposites. It was using an opposite word to describe. Yeah, using a word to describe an opposite of it.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so what was you saying again?
So yeah, people can be cured of it, but there'll be a hell of a lot of people who will always remain in that same state. They'll never get the treatment. They'll never get the help. So their train will stay in the station unfueled and unoiled. Yeah. And
thinking that that's the end of the road for it. Thinking that that's the end of the road for it.
Probably most people.
Yeah.
Most people who've been given this labelled
that's
with
what
one
it
of these
labeled,
disorders. Yeah, people are labelled with it.
And I suppose what they're saying is, when they talk about the medical establishment, is they're saying they know this, but the connection or the correlation to the benefits of what they get, because you have to ask, well, what do they get out of not explaining it to people? Well, they get to prescribe them drugs on that basis. So you get to stay at that station. Let's say that station's Mansfield train station. Now, all those commercial businesses in Mansfield can now serve the passengers on that train. Yeah. The sooner you move that train on to move to the next station, you no longer have the custom no more. So you could equate that. That's an analogy for the medical treatment that they would give them. If that station passes through, they no longer need to have the drugs the way they're no longer like a lifetime's worth of drugs. Yeah, which is a lifetime's worth of money and funding.
Yeah, of
So
course.
now, if you're transitioning through the things, they only need them a few times, and then they transition to the next stage. But if you can keep them at that station,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So now they're just drugging motherfuckers up.
Yeah.
Just-
Which then brings you to the wider picture of all pharmaceuticals
Yeah, and Corona.
and Corona.
Even though the data's coming out, well, there's always been that. I think Pfizer, head guy of Pfizer was saying that the booster didn't really do anything. At least the first and the second one or something weren't really doing anything.
Yeah,
we was just testing them.
Yeah. So what they're saying is the first and the second one don't really work without the third one.
Well, yeah, possibly
But
because they don't know that yet until
exactly.
they've experienced what the thing is, and that's before the next one comes
How
out,
the fuck
because
do
now
we
it's
know?
Omicron or whatever. Omicron is actually the Latin.
No, it's the Greek.
Sorry, the Greek.
It's the Greek for the letter O.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I come across that by accident when I was doing the script for the
right,
for the Black History thing, and I was talking about the alphabets, because all of the alphabets come from the hieroglyphs of Egypt,
Yeah.
and the Hieratic and the Demotic. But all of the languages of Europe come from Afro-Asiatic languages. But so Omicron, I didn't realize it was.
I
That's
don't
what
know
it
why
was.
they skipped straight to Omicron. They had the Delta variant.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is also the Greek letter.
Oh yeah.
But I'd never heard of the Alpha or the Beta versions.
Yeah. And Corona, it just means the sun.
Does it not mean crown?
Sorry, yeah, crown, but the sun wears a crown.
Okay.
So it's the crown, like Jesus wearing the crown of thorns because he's the sun god and son of God, and so the thorns are supposed to represent the crown. The crown is supposed to represent you as being the sun. The sun is Amun Ra, which is it's like the Zeus of all the gods. It's the king of all the gods, and hence the crown representing the sun. So ultimately, it's the corona of the sun, because I think the sun there's a corona around the sun, right? I think they call it the coronal something.
Yeah.
In cosmology or in astronomy, but from a human perspective, or I think they call it anthropomorphic perspective.
Yeah.
It would be. You would think they would say. I used to think it was homopomorphic, because you've got all these anthropomorphisms.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anthropomorphic is
that's
basically
making-
a non-human object.
Human.
A non-human object being given human qualities.
characteristics and qualities.
okay,
Yeah, but you also use homo for that as well.
I guess it's just a different prefix.
Like
that's attached to-
homogeneous.
Yeah. Any.
Of the meaning of the same. Yeah, that's more the same rather than human-like.
Yeah. You point that
Yeah.
homo. means
Homosexual
of the
is of the same.
same. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Homo kind of means more of the
Homophone,
same.
That's a type of word.
Well, that's a variant on a variant, because then homo, which means of the same, you're not. All right, yeah, you would be phobic of the same.
No, homophone.
Oh, homophones.
Yeah.
Oh, you have homophone, homographs, and homo. I got it in my book. So the first chapter in my book.
Right.
So you got homophones, which is a words that have the same sound. Yeah.
Okay.
Homograms, words that have the same spelling. Sorry, words that have the same sound that are spelt different. That's a homophone. Homogram, I think, is a word that's spelt the same that sounds different.
Yeah.
Like live and live.
Yeah.
And then you have, and then there's a third one, and I would have to refer back to my book to get it. But there's a homo something else, which are words that are spelled and sound the same. Does that make sense? Actually, I got that right. I know there's a third category, spelled and sound the same.
But mean something different.
Yeah, I think that's the case. You know. Hold on, I'm gonna have to go and get that. I'm gonna have to go and get that.
Yeah.
That's actually got me thinking. Homoglyph, because glyph means the letters, And it's funny how they separate hieroglyphs from an alphabet. And I've learned that it's because hieroglyphs don't have vowels; they only have consonants, whereas an alphabet has vowels in it as well. That's the legitimacy I'll give it. But so that's why they say in the early days the first alphabet was the Greek, maybe some one or two before it, but essentially the Greek. But really and truly, all letters are glyphs.
Yeah.
They're all symbols that represent a sound.
So a glyph means a symbol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially.
Absolutely. Right. Where did I find it? I haven't mixed some mad up. Here we go. Because that's when I start trying to.
Any opportunity to get the book out.
In it, yeah. The stupidest humanity. Hey, we need to have some discussions on this, as well. Like this, to be interviewed on this would be fantastic as well. Even just the subject matters that it's dealing. You could just do that. Randomly, just pick anywhere. The book. I think the book's that bad. Like there, I just picked up the fucking tort law and how. So technically, any demands or claims without proof of full disclosure and fair contractual obligation by government corporations such as income tax, council tax, road tax, all these kind of things, including demands made by private corporations or non-governmental organizations such as water uses, electric companies, gas companies, are all essentially supposed to be consensual obligations based on and in accordance with contract law. So you're never supposed to be forced to pay these things without your agreement. They need your agreement, but income tax is not agreed upon. There's certain things. Hey, income tax was only invented in the 1940s. There was no income tax.
I mean, in its current form, there was tax.
Yeah.
The people had to pay tax.
Yeah, peasant tax and all them kind of things.
Income tax, was it?
Well, before we move on to that, see, this is why we should deal with this book, because it would be fantastic. But the glyphs. Okay. To my understanding, would help the reader. Okay, so I'm talking about spelling words the way they sound rather than having like diarrhea, which is spelling them weirdly.
Oh, I started doing something really annoying, which was every page that I read in a book, picking out every unneeded letter.
Letter?
Yeah, basically.
Not word, letter.
Yeah, letter in a word that would still sound exactly the same if you remove those letters. And it's hundreds and hundreds of examples.
That's what I did up at that.
On any page. Oh, you did
all
that.
of those?
It did that,
yeah. Because the Americanization of words has kind of done that. So it's how they sound. You know what I mean? It's how they sound. There's arguments like it helps people new to a language, or the only difficulty that I would see in these changes, if you did change it like what you've been doing and like what I've been suggesting, is that the etymological evidence will become less apparent. Yeah, which means that in the way they've spelt it, you can tell where the origins are.
When read, when spoken, makes a difference. If I say to you night,
absolutely,
what am I talking about? Am I talking about darkness? Am I talking about a medieval guy in a suit?
Well, that's a homophone now.
Yeah, you don't know which one I said.
Okay.
Does it sound if I say night and night?
Yeah.
Which one?
But when you look at the spelling, you can see where they've come from based on the spelling. So you can tell one's come from like the French. Yeah, you can tell one was. You can tell one hasn't come. But they probably both come from the fucking French, to be fair. But all right. As for the problems of words looking and sounding the same, we already have homophones, words that sound the same but have different spelling. Homographs, words spelled the same but with different sounds, and homonyms. There we go. Homonyms, as opposed to word ad hominem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a different word, isn't it? That homonyms is with a Y, I'm guessing, at the end. N-Y-M.
Yeah, homonyms. Yeah, I think ad hominem is that homonyms.
I think it is.
Is it
ad hominems? Yeah.
Oh, that'd be interesting, because I think it might even be Y.
Which means that ad hominem and homonyms are
derived from different sources. Oh, okay. Oh, if they've got the same spelling.
If they've got a different spelling.
Well, ad hominem is just like is like coming off the argument and focusing on someone's character to get away from the argument.
I know.
Yeah. Or like what's it called? Strawman argument kind of thing. Well,
pretty sure I introduced you to the ad hominem.
It was Normsky actually, because he keeps trying to. That's it. It was one of his favorite words.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I
We
remember
probably talked about it as
saying
well.
it to you one time, and you were like, "What is that?" And then
I wouldn't
explained it
know.
to you.
Because, well, I don't know.
So why did you ask?
I don't think I did. It might have been somebody else. I just remember Normsky. It definitely weren't my word. Who I got it off, I don't know. But I famously remember him. It's one of his favorite things. He'll use it in. If you say that, listen, you are very angry and you got no discipline in your arguments. If I say that to him, which is a statement of truth, he will say, why are you using ad hominems for? He's using it in the wrong context. He's conflating what the fuck he's talking about. That would be if I was to say, well, your clothes are crap when we're talking about language. Yeah, that's more of an ad hominem. If I'm stating something like you activate,
but if you said, well, you're stupid for having that opinion, that would be in context of the argument, but also it would be an ad hominem.
yeah, so you could have, I don't know. We'd have to look into that, because it might be just because you've referred to the character as well. But sometimes the character's relevant. Sometimes the character's relevant to the argument.
Sometimes it's relevant.
Because if you're just always too positive, or you're too negative, or you always talk over to someone and therefore you never hear their argument, then your character is very relevant to your argument style. But the last one, homonym, words that are spelled and sound the same. I'd love some examples of that.
Spelled and sound the same.
Spelled and.
Can I think of one real quick off the bat, but they mean something different, yeah? So
You got life and live.
they're not spelled the same.
Yeah, they're not. Fuck it now.
There's definitely.
Life and live is homographs.
Leaves. Leaves.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That is one.
Justin leaves the room. All the leaves are brown.
Yeah. And there are some more.
There's loads.
Yeah, there are some. Yeah.
There are definitely a lot. It's just hard to think of them off the bat.
Well, I suppose May might be even as well, as in the month and the
that's definitely one. Yeah, May is one.
There's kind of
yeah.
But anyway, yeah. No, I was even just trying to think of one to start with there. But yeah, that's correct. But what did we move on to? We went on to. All right. Let me pick another random. Right, pick a random.
All right, pick a random.
Pick a random page. I think it was talking about contractual obligations last time. You're in. This is words, isn't it? Language.
Words.
Yeah.
More stuff about words.
Yeah.
So generally, swear or non-offensive words need to be treated with the same solution of non-reaction or non-acknowledgement.
Yeah, which is, I think, is the whole point. Like, if and that would go for the word nigger, negro, because we was talking about negro tonight with Debbie. Negro actually means black. Why is it all right to call me a black guy, but it's not all right to call me a negro when they're exactly the same fucking thing? Apart from the fact that we've been trained not to override it and say, hey, why are you calling me this? So this is why I'm saying words need to be understood for what they are, which is harmless forms of communication. And we need to understand that when we have a problem with a word, it's a game of word association. And you're associating that word with something, with a feeling and emotion, and you're self-evoking it. What's it called? Is it not loaded language? It might be loaded language. So your culture teaches you what, like shit and sugar. Really? If sugar now means shit, because now we use it for the same thing.
It should be equally offensive.
It should be equally offensive.
In an aggressive or
you should be able to say call someone a sugar head.
Yeah,
and it have the same thing.
That's true.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But then I think I also discuss how these offensive words, so-called offensive words, subjectively offensive words, were derived from words that were not originally offensive. So, like bastard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even though it might have been offensive in the non-politically correct way or non-socially etiquette way, in terms of your parents should have been married, so you offended the church. But other than that, you know what I mean? Yeah,
in my view, swear words are not offensive. People use them against you to say that you've been offensive.
To stop an argument even.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no need to be rude.
Yeah,
Stick to the argument that I'm making.
Yeah.
Stick to the fucking argument. There's no need to be rude.
Exactly.
You're just weird. No, but answer the
police
point that I
use
was
it.
trying to make. But you don't need to swear. I fucking
Yeah.
hate that. I hate that. They do that on TV and shit.
Yeah, they do.
If you got a great point, they will stop you on that and say, hey.
They'll use it as a weapon against you. Yeah, if you made the best point ever, but you said the word fuck and you were on TV, you'd be shut down then, and your point would be forgotten about.
Yeah, this
is stupid.
Yeah, no matter whether it's after Watershed's all right, I suppose, but even before Watershed's, who gives a
stupid
fuck?
Anyway?
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
What is it? In case kids are watching, is that what it is?
And what did I say at the end of the book?
Well, for a start, these days, what kid watches TV anyway? Watches scheduled TV? That's an out of date concept.
Well, they may do. Yeah, no, yeah, now
Barely
it is.
any. Barely
You're
any.
right. Now it is
Very small number. People in a really fucking regressive household that haven't got their shit updated. You know what I mean?
A few other points to take into consideration.
Yeah.
After Watershed or a particular period of time, evening 9 to 6 a.m., offensive language on TV is more so acceptable as children are assumed to be in bed asleep. But this arrangement does not consider those children with broken sleeping patterns and televisions or internet access in their rooms.
Exactly. That's the point, exactly.
You get me? So now they're exposed to all this shit, but we're not allowed to say it in front of them. Even though they hear their parents swearing, hold on, but you'll sit down and all watch Die Hard or some movie. You'll all sit down and watch Get Rich or Die Trying. You'll all watch The Godfather.
Yeah.
You see your man's brains get blown out.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Well,
but you can't use the word. Yeah, or a policeman who will use it in his normal thing, but you say it in front of. Could you mind your language there, or do you know what I mean?
Police can arrest you for swearing if you're being drunk and disorderly. Yeah. I've seen this situation. I've seen it on cop shows where they're like, I
think it'd have to be in a combination with a
in a combination. If you maybe not, if you walk up to a policeman and say, "You fucking prick, you stupid cunt," they'll probably arrest you for public order offence. But I've seen them say like, "Oh, if you swear one more time, I'll arrest you," and then they're like, "Fuck off," and they arrest them. But if
what's the child public order? It's not illegal though. Well, maybe it is illegal to swear.
Well, it's weird because they say I'm arresting you for public order, which is stupid. They mean public disorder.
Disorder, yeah.
But they say the word public.
Oh, that's like misuse of drugs. Like, why are you assuming I've misused them?
Yeah. That's right.
I hate that one.
They're arresting you under the Misuse of Drugs Act.
That's a misnomer in itself. What do you mean misused?
Yeah.
So
I've
why do we have a court case?
I've done exactly what you're supposed to.
So why don't the court case even argue whether I've misused them first? Then once we've realised that I've misused them, then we can go ahead and work out what the sentence or whatever it is, but until it's just assumed that I've misused them.
Yeah,
I could have just used them I could have used them in a great way. I could have used them for my cancer or whatever.
Yeah,
that's still misuse.
At the end of the day, the police and courts will skip over that part. You'll never get the chance to
language.
Yeah.
Well, nobody even bothers to even argue it. It's just a law. It's just the name of a law.
But I would say if you tried to argue it, that would be pretty futile.
Oh, there's the one where I had.
You wouldn't get far.
Well, I've actually got a birth certificate there, and I've ringed where it says warning. That's a UK birth certificate, not to be used as ID. So if a birth certificate is not to be used, and check the play. Isaac can't get his driver's license without his birth certificate. He can't get it with he can't get a bank account with his driver's license. Hold on.
Basically, what he's saying, he can't get a bank account without his driver's license, but he can't get his driver's license without his birth certificate.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say.
So it's a vicious circle.
Well, it's not even a circle,
but you can,
because everything you get from you can get driver's license and passport from that.
Yeah,
the driver's license and passport are the two primary forms of ID, and you can only get those with that, which makes that superior to all of them. It trumps them all.
It does.
So you should be able to get everything with that.
Everything else with that.
Yeah, to get that, you only need to make a phone call and know where the person was born.
You barely have to identify yourself. You can get a copy sent to you.
Yeah. But you can't get the back. You can't get the things that thing allows you to get with the other thing. So. So this is what I'm saying. This country's twisted.
But is this country twisted? Is it better in other countries? Do you think, in Spain or
just because it's
Australia,
better here don't mean it's not. Just because we have
twisted there.
Just because we have
It might be worse there.
Just because we have both of our legs but no arms, don't mean even though it's better than somewhere where you'd have one arm.
Yeah.
It's still bad. You should still have both your arms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, sorry. Just because we've got one arm, it's better than somewhere that you'd have two. It's better than somewhere that we have no arms.
Yeah.
So it's better to have one arm than no arms, but it's still but it's still an evil for someone to have chopped off one arm.
Yeah, sure, sure. Okay.
That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, just like inmate, how I said that the hospital patients used to be referred to as inmates. Your parents are referred to as informants. They're informers, like police informers, because
Okay.
What
time is that? It's 7:15.
Is it still recording? Oh,
Man's got,
you're fucking So it's like the Spanish Inquisition where your parents have been informed. Yo, the baby's been born. I'm letting you know. You know what I mean? The authorities that he's been born, so you must get him under the thingy and register him. Yeah, because if you don't do that, because I really do accept that the birth certificate, and that's why I've got it in here, man. It is locking you down to the state rules. It's making you a citizen. I think there's benefits to being a citizen, no doubt. But you're only supposed to be a citizen when you're in trouble. Yeah. When you're in trouble and you got no money, you have a contract with the government and you accept their laws in exchange for support, financial support and economic support. But once you've got out of that, and you no longer you managed to support yourself and you got your own business, now you no longer have to, and that's not all the whole law, but you no longer have to accept their bylaws of the company because you're no longer with the company anymore. Once you leave McDonald's, you no longer have to abide by McDonald's bylaws. You had a contract that was temporary at the time, and the government is no different. No different.
So what happens if you don't register your child? Has anyone tested that?
Apparently.
I'm sure people fail to do it quite often.
No, people have not done it and claimed. People have not done it and claimed. And because that's all this part talks about.
Yeah.
And apparently they was not able to do anything about the children that were not registered, but the other children were able to be taken into social services. Whether that's true or not.
They'll come and steal the children off you if you don't register them.
If you do register them, they come and steal the children.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is
they're allowed to. Like they've got legal.
Oh. Yeah.
Carte blanche to come and rob your kids.
Well, they own them. They have legal title.
If they're certified with a birth certificate, they can do that. They're just allowed to do that without any
they have legal title.
If you're not certified with a birth certificate,
then it would be theft. It would be illegal theft.
Yeah, but they'll do it anyway, and you still won't be able to do anything about it.
Exactly, and they don't differentiate now, especially if people don't know. Maybe if you're a freeman and you're knowledgeable, maybe there's something you could do. Maybe if you make them aware that they can't do that, now they'll leave you alone. But I think they've got so much power that when they abuse their power, they don't give a fuck anyway.
Yeah, they'll just force it through.
They're always doing it all day, every day anyway. Yeah. So when you discover that they're not, it's so normal for them to take the kids off you now. It's so normal for you to register your youth. Like, you're not allowed to keep the placenta, right? You have to argue and apparently you have to argue and go through a lot of shit to keep the placenta because they use it for their. Go on.
Pretty sure they. In fact, no,
they chop it and get rid of it.
I'm trying to remember what they did with it, but I'm pretty sure they just dashed it in a biological waste.
Yeah, because they make money from it. Like hysterectomies from wombs. Apparently, black women are leading in hysterectomies, but there's also correlation between the Fortune 500 companies in terms of this is why the film Get Out. You know about the film Get Out?
I've seen the film.
This is why the film Get Out was supposed to be. Not a metaphor, that's the wrong word, but it's what it's supposed to symbolize. Yeah, so it was a symbol of, which was they're using a lot of black body parts to cure a lot of white people because of the melanin in the thingy. And this woman called Henrietta Lacks. And if you Google Henrietta Lacks, they'll show you how this black woman had some kind of super genes, and they used her. They still use her to this day, and never paid any of their family anything. But they used her to cure all sorts of illnesses and stuff. She had certain things in her body, and apparently it's not inherent in all well melanated people, but certainly it seems to be the more melanated you are, the more benefits you have in the biological. Like I was talking about the bones earlier for space travel. So you would assume since space travel fucks up your bones because of the lack of gravity. Yeah, if you're exercising on the treadmill and stuff, or you're using the machines that give you gravity, now it helps you to maintain your bone density. But if you could start out in the first place as having more dense bones, and it's supposed to be a biological fact that the doctors always have to turn up the fucking machine or turn down the machine, depending on whether it's a black, I say black or white, but it's just someone with more melanin or not, because black or white is kind of a misnomer, isn't it? Yeah. But somebody with both, the colour of your skin is supposed to denote how thick, how dense your bones are. If that really is the case, then you would think that the majority of astronauts would be fucking of a melanated hue, especially due to the sun and the radiation.
They're obviously not basing astronaut selection on bone density, then, are they?
But the problems that they're coming across are lack of bone density or bone deterioration and radiation. Because remember, you got the radiation coming from the. That's a big problem in space, radiation. So why are they using people with no carbon in the skin, no protection? That's crazy. Or at least they should be putting sun cream on the. I can't use Caucasian. It's the misnomer word. You have to say white. Modern European is not what I like to use. Because I don't know what to call people anymore. Like I don't like calling black people black because it doesn't really do anything. White. We're not black, we're not white.
Yeah, nobody's black, nobody's white.
They're not European. They're only modern Europeans because the original Europeans are not.
Yeah,
we're not colourless.
Like Caucasian.
Caucasian means
from the Caucasus, right?
Yes and no. An Ethiopian is a Caucasian. They made Europeans, and this is in my first documentary. If you watch it, they made Ethiopians. People of the Nile Valley and Egyptians, they made them legally, politically white, and Caucasian. So, and this was because of the biblical. There was a problem that they couldn't get around, which was they're in the fucking Bible. They're in the Bible of Aksum, like Queen of Sheba, who banged King Solomon. So, and Moses' wife was Ethiopian and all this kind of shit. So they had to. What they did is they separated the Ethiopians, the East Africans, from the West Africans. The West Africans are Negroes, and the East Africans are white Caucasians. They literally say, in the scientific papers, it says that they are white black people. And what the fuck? You're thinking, what the fuck?
So,
scientific papers.
Where they use the term whitewashing as a covering over, that's literal whitewashing.
I think it used to mean, from the Gutenberg school, it used to mean white. In America, Caucasian means white skinned, like light skinned, colorless. It's colorless really because there's no pigmentation, so it's just transparent. That's why you see blue veins and red blood vessels and all that kind of shit. So it's transparent. That's the best way.
Transparent but layered up.
Everybody else is just a shade of brown. There's no black, there's no white, there's no yellow. Even Chinese motherfuckers are white.
Where did I see that? I saw that really recently. But everyone is brown.
Yeah,
technically a shade of brown.
Yeah, well, if you watch my documentary, it would have been on there. But
is that what it is?
Everybody's on a spectrum, apart from the lightest of light, who would be referred as colorless. But it's still on the spectrum because you have. It's like a window. You have a glass window like mine. That's just like white people, transparent. You see everything that's behind. But it's got the effect that bathroom windows have got.
Opaque.
It's crystalline. It's
an opaque effect. Basically.
But it's transparent. But you can't. It's not clear. And then everybody else is a tint. They're tinted windows, and it goes from very light tints to very dark tints where you can't see shit behind it. You get me? That's it. That's what's fantastic. That's what puts us all on the same. Because if it's one spectrum now it takes away this black and white bullshit. There's no political dichotomy because I think that's what they're trying to create. They're trying to create political.
They're not trying to
polarities.
It's there. It's created.
Not dichotomy, polarity.
It's well established. And divisive. Like they
it's a very good tool to divide people with. For real.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, they picked a good one there.
Fantastic. When you think of Bacon's Rebellion, which you don't get the chance to understand about, which is, are you familiar with Bacon's Rebellion?
No.
Bacon's Rebellion was the United States. I think it might have been when it was the 13 colonies before the United States, 1680. Yeah, so before 1776. Bacon's Rebellion was a time in the 1680s where black people and white people were more or less to say the word white hadn't been invented yet, so it was never used to refer to a person. They would use black sometimes, but they would use African or Cameroonian and Niger, them kind of words, Senegalian, and for the white, what they call whites today, they would say Irish, Scots, figure. So you say Scotsman, an Irishman, or a Welshman, a Nigerian man, and all these kind of Spanish, Polish, Spanish, Lithuanian. They would use all these nationalities, which made more sense. Then what happened was, and it's in Gangs of New York as well. Well, kind of, but what happened was, because everybody was in the ghettos together, the Irish, the Italians, the Ashkenazi Jews, and the blacks, African Americans, whatever the fuck you want to call it, they're all in the ghettos together. Then, by the time you get to the 80s, only the blacks are in the ghettos. All the other guys, and Gangs of New York tells the story of how the Irish went from being niggers, because they were like white niggers, and you see it in Gangs of New York, you can blatantly see that the Anglo-Saxon white people saw them as completely different people, and they became honorary whites in the 1940s. The Italians, the Irish, and the Jews became honorary, and the Greeks, they became honorary whites. Right. So in the legislation, they went from being non-white to white. So some whites decided what whiteness was. Yeah, and then so they didn't even consider the Romans, the Italians, and the Greeks as white. Yet their greatest heroes and starters of civilization were Greeks and Romans. They just pick and choose what the fuck they were. But then now you're finding out that they weren't even fucking white, that they would have been a mixture. Plus Septimus Severus, which was the one who went to Hadrian's Wall and built the city of London and shit, that was the black general. You get me? That was the black general. But what was my point? Yeah. So in 1680, Bacon's Rebellion, blacks and whites were just fucking each other. There was no, this is before, because I always thought, okay, segregation, 1960s, that's when it ended. When the fuck did it start? Did it start when they've brought the first slaves over? The answer is no. They didn't have rules that you can't fuck this person until 1680, because everyone was fucking everyone. So what happened was there was some kind of, anytime the King of England would do stuff that would piss off the people, blacks and whites together would, because there was no racism. So blacks and whites would stand up, because I'm already got a white wife, and you might have a Native American wife, and everyone's just mix up. Blacks are allowed to own guns, property, vote, everything. So no, there's been no taking away of rights yet. So this is the 1680s. There's slaves, there's black slaves, there's Irish slaves, there's indentured servants, there's all sorts of stuff going on. But they're not primarily taking the slaves from Africa yet. Yeah, they're taking the Indians and doing them, and they're using indentured servitude, which means every time that because it's indentured servitude, every time something happened, they would have to then they would have to let them go after a certain amount of time. Yeah. Or they would have to, if they wanted to use it for something, they would have had to have paid them. But because something happened with the Indians and they wanted to expand into the Indian territory more, England didn't want no beef with the Indians. But the people, the indentured servants, after the 7 years of servitude, they would say, hey, where's our land? And there was none left, so they had to expand into the Indian thingy. And because they wanted to do that and England didn't want them to, they had beef, went to war. Blacks and whites fought side by side, and it was called Bacon's Rebellion. So what happened was the aristocrats of Europe, or of England, decided to create a category called white that was now going to, so the divide and conquer, greatest tool. So what they did is they divided the blacks from the white, or all the different colors from the white, and says, now we're legally creating the word white, and it means if you are white, you have all these privileges and this and that. So now you're allowed to have the firearms. Now, so you're basically able to keep the privileges that the blacks already had, and they took them away from everybody else. Only white men were allowed to marry all the other brown women. Yeah, because they didn't want to say no one's allowed to have sex with no one else. If you're a white man, whoa. I still want to have my brand. Come on, I get why they did that. Come on, I can't hate that. You get me? But they stopped black men from being with white women and the brat. So none of us can be with their women. But some of the penalties for the white women being with black men would be prison sentences and stuff, which they still did it anyway, even though there was a sentence. And you find out that even some white women married people who were already slaves. Yeah, they fancied them that much. They were marrying guys that were slaves. And the rule was, if you married someone that was a slave, you became a slave yourself. And white women were still marrying black slaves and becoming slaves.
Getting themselves slaved
just
up
to get black dick. This is in the paperwork, this legislative paperwork of the 1600s. So that you're thinking, Bumble Clark, this is like, what the fuck? So this kind of taboo thing has always been going on. But I suppose the more you tell people that they can't do something, the more it happens. But what was my point? So so the point is basically that this divide, that was it, the divide and conquer situation, never existed. Well, it's a fantastic tool, because the whites then played into the hands, rather than saying, hey, we're not having that. We've grown up with these black people from a long time, like in Gangs of New York. Remember Leonardo DiCaprio was with the black guy. Yeah, there was one black boy that represented a black population. You know what I mean? They only used one black guy, but he was supposed to be representative of black people with the Irish, because they were all classed as fucking subhuman pieces of shit. Yeah, against the Anglo-Saxons. Soon as they were offered the opportunity to work in, I think, the Irish took the police force, didn't they? For some reason, the Irish run the police force. And I think construction, or is it the Italians with the trade unions and the construction? They were given certain trade areas that the fucking Jews then ran fucking law, and they were given certain things to run, and they turned their backs on the blacks and went, same as they did with Baker's Rebellion. They turned their backs and decided, hey, I can become white like them who were running things, and they won't be racist to me no more. Even though I look like them, and they still see me as an Irish guy, and I'm proud of my Irish. So they would take it, and then they just blended into the Anglo-Saxon figure. Now they're the only ethnicities or colours that doesn't have to have a name attached to it. Like, for example, you have African American, you have Chinese American, you have Mexican American, you even have Native American, which you would have thought they would have been the people that would have just called American. But the only people that are just called American are the European Americans, and you never hear European American. You never hear that. Sometimes you hear, I think you might hear Italian American.
You do.
But very rarely. You never hear Greek American. You don't hear
Irish,
Scottish American,
German.
which is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is Scottish American. What you say? And he's only been there for about 150 years, his family. Some of those African Americans over there, they've been there since the fucking 1600s and shit. But yeah, Trump and them lot will get the title of American. But yeah, so same with Australia. Only the whites are called Australian. They're not called English Australian or Welsh Australian. Everybody else is, even the indigenous, the Aboriginal American Australians. Everyone's called this and that. It's only the whites that are...
Yeah.
Even South Africans. Although they do use both. But the British South Africans, they just so it's just misuses. But I tell you what though, when I was in jail, when I was in jail, I had a wonderful argument with a woman who was from Canada. She was one of the teachers in the class, and I know that Canadians don't like it being called American, and so I took it upon me to have that conversation with her, and knowing that I was going to be right because Canada is America, it's in North America, and so when she went clean against it, I just then started flinging maps and atlases in front of her, in front of the class, because it became a slinging thing, innit? And it got a bit loud because she was getting upset. No, I'm not. No, what are you talking about? Stop being. And I'm just saying, look, but it's North America. It's North what? What is it? North what? And there was no way out of it. It's America. Just like Jamaica and the Caribbean islands are American islands. Yeah, so a Jamaican is a fucking American as well. Why isn't a Mexican an American? It's Central America. Why is what they call America is not called? There's no country called America.
No,
there's a country called the United States of America, but it's not America. It's the United States of America.
Yes,
but Mexico is just as much America as the United States and Canada, and
Yeah, exactly. So those United States, it's far more relevant to call it the United States. The America part is neither here nor there. It's like
the Americas,
France of Europe.
Yeah.
But then calling it Europe.
Yeah, and then everybody only referring to France as Europe.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Britain. We say Britain, Germany, Spain, and Europe, and by that they mean France. Like it makes no fucking sense when they do that.
Yeah.
And Europe is the only continent that's not actually a continent. I think we've had this conversation already. Europe's the only continent that's doesn't fit the criteria for being a continent. They've made it up. They've made it into a continent because it's at best it's not even a peninsula. It's not even a peninsula because it's not hanging on by a little thread. It's the west. It's Western Asia.
Yeah. It is the Western Peninsula of Asia.
It's not even a peninsula. It's not even a peninsula. It's too. Is it too? The connection is too. No. It's not that it's too big.
Not geographically.
A peninsula is like where it's hanging. It's like a bottleneck.
Yeah.
There's no bottleneck between Europe and Asia. There's no bottleneck.
No.
It's like this. It goes from Asia to Europe.
Yeah.
It's not Asia bottleneck Europe because with the Iberian Peninsula, that's like France bottleneck Spain,
that's right,
or with Africa with Egypt, and then bottleneck Sinai and the Levant or Jordan and Israel. It bottlenecks. North America bottleneck to Central South America. It's always bottlenecks, or your own continent like Australia or something. Yeah? Europe is no bottleneck.
Yeah.
It's only because they're using it to segregate
but even
skin color.
Africa, Europe, and Asia is all one landmass.
Yeah, but that's underwater. They're talking at least about. I get if you're going to use the logic of on top of water, then they should use the logic of on top of water. If they're going to use tectonic plates, because this I know me and you had this conversation because we googled it and
a long time ago.
Yeah, this was at your this is when we was living together at the other spot. Because what we found was there was several definitions for continents, and some of them are to do with tectonic plates. And if you're going by tectonic plates, the continents that we consider today on a map are not continents because they're underground linked and they're way bigger than what. So, but when we say continent, we talk about the seven continents of Europe. Yeah. So that was more complicated, but the way we look at it is continents on top of the ocean surface.
Yeah, and the continent is more of a political construct.
Well, they all seem to fit physical. There's an eligibility criteria until it comes to Europe. There's a logic until it comes to Europe. Then when it comes to Europe, the logic is skin tone. So we want to be separated from them. So we're going to say that Europe is not part of Asia. And this, you could even say that's why you call them Caucasian. So they're still fucking Asians. They're just Caucasian or Caucasians. And that was the argument that a lot of people, including black people, Afrocentrics, oh, you come from the Caucasus Mountains and all this kind of shit. Which I don't think anyone knows. Really, I don't think there's a Caucasus Mountain argument. I don't think there is. And walking on all fours, I think that's just like certain black people just trying to slap back. You know what I mean? They didn't have the evidence, so they just slap back with, well, you lot used to walk on all fours and all this kind of dumb shit. I don't know. There are some wild stories about that stuff, or the white people's hair. I've heard them say white people's hair is more biologically an equivalent to fur, but I don't know how much that's true because there's a lot of hate, and I understand the hate because when black people are racist, it's a response to racism on them. When white people are racist, it's not fucking. There's no reason for it. Because no one was ever... I can't find a time where white people were discriminated against for that. No. May have happened, but I can't find it. Even when the Moors ran Europe, there was...
Not for being white.
Not for being white.
Yeah.
Not for being Christians either, because it was Christendom.
Yeah.
What were they... Remember, they were integrated when the Moors ran Europe. Yeah. There was no discrimination at all. Well... I mean, let's not say it was fucking utopian, but there was no racial segregation or religious segregation even. Well, they did make them in certain cities pay certain things if you're Jew or whatever or Christian. Like Muslims were allowed free reign of everything probably, but they still bought a lot of shit. They never Europe for what Europe did and the levels they went to destroy everybody else's appearance, not reputation, character, I suppose, to destroy everybody else's character and uplift their own character. They had to create such a this is why they went with all that Aryan stuff and subhuman stuff, and they went to the ends of the thing. It ended with Hitler. People think it starts with Hitler, or Hitler's a bad guy. Hitler was taking on the philosophy of Britain and America. Britain and America before Hitler was the baddest places for all that superior race bullshit. Hitler was the last person in history to be bawling about the eugenics and Aryan race shit. He got that from the British and the fucking all them scientists. You get me? That's the joke. That's and then they demonize him.
I've read a book about racism, which told me that.
Yeah. Francis Galton, British guy, which is Darwin's cousin. The French, the English, they got some scholars that are fucking nasty bastards. Mandel, he wrote the Mandelian thing. They all try to justify, they all try to say that God created the races separately and then created them, or that blacks came from whites. They all try to go, they had a theory or hypothesis, and then they tried to make the science fit the hypothesis, which is the opposite to the way science is supposed to work. But that's why it's beautiful. It's horrible at the time because when you're growing up around that and you're a victim of that, you buy into it. But what's beautiful is when you realize these people are kind of lying and had to make this shit up, it's so validating. Especially when you've been told that you come from trees or you live in huts and all this kind of shit, and you come from, your people don't really create anything, and now you're in England and with these people now you're nice and they've created everything, only to realize it was all crap. I'm embarrassed for people. I'm embarrassed for them. It's embarrassing for you to hijack stuff.
Yeah. Do you know about the part about how vaccines were invented by
the slave guy?
Yeah.
The concept of vaccination, because he used the bacteria. And apparently he knew it from his own culture, how to basically contaminate people. So herd immunity on it. Yeah. Take a piece of the virus, infect it, do it that way.
Exactly.
I heard that.
But
I heard that recently.
It was rubbished by people from the so-called civilized countries, from
Right.
the Europeans or the British. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
But then they actually stole the idea and claimed it as their own.
Yeah. I
After
can
having
imagine.
said it was shit and stupid.
Imagine how many slaves came up with inventions.
Yeah.
Or women.
Yeah.
Women as well. Women came up with enough inventions, but because their husbands had to take credit for it because a woman can't go. Look at what's her name, Beatrice Potter, and all those kind of people who had to pretend to be men just to publish books and shit.
Yeah.
Dumb shit, man.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Well, it's not amazing. Amazing is a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. It's not. It
The
just
stupidity is
amazes you.
amazing.
It's astounding. It's astonishing.
Astounding. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
The levels that they have to go to,
Yeah.
like Clash of the Titans, where you Google the Clash of the Titans and you find that the woman that's chained at the thingy is the princess of Ethiopia. That's what it says. It said no, they don't hide it. They're the king and queen of Ethiopia, and the queen remarks that my daughter, the Ethiopian woman, is the most beautifulest woman on the planet, meaning that Ethiopian women were the most beautiful. This is what the Greeks used to think, the Ethiopian women were the most beautiful. And then the god got angry and then says, you mocking the gods, I think there was some war against the gods and the people. It says, now you were going to punish her, and after so many days we're gonna release the kraken on your daughter when she's trained up. That's where Perseus goes, gets the Medusa head and golden fleece, all them things there, and does his thing. So it's the princess of Ethiopia, whose name is Andromeda, by the way, which is our closest galaxy. She's the princess of Ethiopia in Greek mythology, which is and that's not the sad part, because all right, then they make white films and they use white actors. All right, fair enough. That's one liberty. But then what did the historians, the academics, then when black people start to find this out, they're like, hey, that's Ethiopia. It says it in Google or anywhere you look, it tells you. But it's spelled Ethiopia with an A. Yeah, but it's Ethiopia because that's what Ethiopia used to be. The Greeks spelt it with an A. Yeah, like Egypt, they spelled Egypt with an A as well. Aegyptus, yeah. So it's just the Greek for it. So their answer to it is, but it's not a real Ethiopia. It was a mythological. So it wasn't a physical place. It was like a mythological place because it was mythology. The only problem with that is the word Ethiopia means ithi, burnt, and ops, face. So the word means burnt face person. So it doesn't matter whether it's in heaven, it's in hell, it's in the fairyland, or in Lord of the Rings. Anyone it has to refer to it has to have a burnt face, for fuck's sake. Right. But they literally, in academia, they try and say white Ethiopians. This is why Caucasian Ethiopians are considered as Caucasian. It's a crazy, crazy game they try and play. But not only that, the latest one I found is in the Trojan War of Homer the Iliad. There's some that's part of parts and poems. In the war of the Trojan War, you know how you got Paris who teaches the girl of the other side, and then Achilles is on the other side, and they start this war and the Trojan War, all that kind of shit. I think Achilles was on that side that was invading. The Trojans. That's not in the film, but it was because it weren't in the Iliad. I thought it was being racist, but they weren't because it's not in the Iliad, but it's in the other poems. They have this Ethiopian general named Memnon. So you got Agamemnon, who's like the boss on that side. He's like Achilles' boss. He's the one that orders all the things and and then you have Memnon, who is the Ethiopian, the biggest army, and that's the best army for that side. And not only that, Memnon is nearly the equal to Achilles. Achilles is like a demigod. Memnon is almost like a demigod as well. Yeah. And Memnon is nearly the equal to where they have a fight and they're both looking forward to it because they both you see how exceptional Brad Pitt was in the fucking thing. Like it's like play some fucking, no one can't fuck with him. This is how Memnon was as well. So when they finally came head to head, they did the thing. But Memnon he got killed. Achilles beat him. So Achilles was the baddest still, but Memnon managed to injure him, and to injure Achilles was a big thing. That's not the phenomenal thing about it. The phenomenal thing is this Ethiopian with the baddest army, who was more or less a demigod, who was nearly the equal to Achilles and shit, had a son with Ida or one of the Greek women, and the son's name is Troth, yeah, which we pronounce as Thor. And check the play.
Yeah.
The first mention of Thor, so this ain't what the Greeks were talking about. This is, Thor's not mentioned by the Greeks, yeah, because they just mentioned Thor's dad, which is Memnon. We call him Odin today, but it's not Odin. Odin is not his dad. Like, Odin is Floki. You know Floki? You got Thor and Loki. Yeah. They're supposed to be brothers, but they're not. Odin's Loki's stepdad. Yeah. Okay. And they make out that Thor, the guy with the hammer with the blonde hair and shit, the real dapper dude, he's the son of Odin. But in the Swedish Chronicles, which is the first place, the Icelandic, because it's Scandinavian Norse mythology. Yeah. In Norse mythology, the first reference to Thor is in the 13th century by Snorri Sturluson. Yeah, 13th century. That's 1200s. Called a book called the Prose Edda. Yeah, and it first mentions Thor as being the son of Memnon. So no one even knows where this Odin shit came from. Odin is also where they got Santa Claus from. Is the guy in the hood with the beard and shit. Yeah. With the fucking pipe. Yeah, that's where we got that from, and the Christmas tree with the heads on. Used to have human heads on. So that's Norse mythology, but. Apparently in the comics, in Marvel comics, he had ginger hair, not blonde hair. So they changed it from that. But basically, if this guy banged a white woman, Thor's at least mixed like you, at least the very least mixed. And it could be said that his mum could also be African, which would mean he's pure black. But it just goes to show how they have him as that fucking, what's his name, the Australian guy.
Yeah, I know the guy. Yeah, Hemsworth.
There you go, Hemsworth. Yeah, it's just weird how they do these crazy, but it's embarrassing. If you don't know, then it's wicked terror. Yeah,
most people are unaware, though, aren't they?
Lord of the Rings, all these kind of things, because The Hobbit. I got a book in there. It's a scientific journal. It's not a comic book. It's not a fantasy book. It's not a movie. I got a book in there, scientific journal, talks about the Hobbits and the Pixies from Lord of the Rings. What's it called? The Grimms, the Brothers Grimm. Yeah. It talks about them and where they got the inspiration to talk about pixies and elves and shit, and that they were real fucking people. These Lord of the Rings, all these motherfucking hobbits and these they were all real motherfuckers, and they were the pygmies, like the African pygmies of like South Africa and shit. You get me? And the St. Patrick chased them out. That's why they have St. Patrick's Day. They say it was chasing snakes, but it was chasing these little pygmies, which are now called pixies. Yeah, in Africa they're called pygmies by the West. In fairy tales or in old language, they're called pixies. And if you go Cornwall, the Cornish people say, no, we don't call them pixies, we call them piskies. They interchange the K and the S, so they go from pixies to piskies. And the reason why they come out at night is because they fought with the bigger humans, and we basically nearly killed them all off. So they went into the swamplands and the forests and shit where they never used to live, and they would only come out at night. And that's why the Irish folklore is the pixies, you see them come out at night dancing around the fire and shit. And leprechaun, which means small-bodied person. All these things aren't even legends, they're real fucking... So it's all mad. And these people grew up on these stories, and they will tell you, we were told by our grandmas and our great-grandmas that these things were true. And today they try and make it seem like it's fairy tales, especially in all this Lord of the Rings bullshit. Yeah, Game of Thrones, where they just make the brown people like me and you. Well, people like me is not even in there. People who look like you, they're the slaves, the fucking what are they called, the unsullied. Yeah, they look like you with the Hollyoaks people, innit? You know, the two Hollyoaks people. You got them two English. You got the girl from Hollyoaks, the bum team. I'm trying to remember. Queen of Dragon's main assistant. The Browning, the bum Browning. She's from Hollyoaks, isn't it? She's that police. She's that police guy's, the policeman's sister. You had the black man, and he had. It was a weird one because I think it was a black man and a black woman, but they had mixed race children. So that's how Hollyoaks works. You get me? But I remember when the mixed race policeman was in it. That was his younger sister. Next thing you know, she's gone from that and she's in fucking Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Big up to her though, still, because now she's world renowned. You get me? And I think the guy that she was with, the unsullied guy who had no dick, I think he was from. He was British. I think he was from Hollyoaks as well.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'll have to recheck
so all the brown ones are fucking slaves or some kind of shit, and everyone's white there. Lannister stands for Lancaster.
Yeah.
If you know about the War of the Roses,
Yeah, and the other one's Stark.
which is the House of York. There you go. It's just it's some real shit.
Yeah.
War of the Roses. You know what I mean? And York was North, and that's why Sean Bean was with his Yorkshire accent, and the Starks. And the Lannisters are the London ones, and that's why they're the richer ones with all the money. You get me? It's just fucking.
Yeah.
If you know your history and you know your stuff, and you're a bit of a nerd, you understand all these things. You get me? But I think they just got onto. I think they started putting Arabs in there, didn't they? They put a few Arabs in there in the last couple of series of.
I mean, the Mother of Dragons. She married that Dothraki.
Would you
And-
say?
and-
Yeah,
and they were Asian looking.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that. The Asians get in there, but they were Brahmins. If you know about Brahmin Asians, so they're the people of India. So you have brown people in India, but they're the really light skinned ones, because the Dothraki,
Yeah.
they're light skinned
They are,
Asians.
yeah.
Whereas you got the Dravidians of India, they're the ones that are like South Indian, and they're the ones that are oppressed by the light skinned ones are the ones from Bollywood that you see that almost look white. They try and act white and shit,
Yeah.
just like the Chinese and the
They
Japanese.
definitely put makeup on.
Yeah,
They look
yeah.
super white.
Yeah. You know, they're called Aryans. That's what they were, the original Aryans. Aryan doesn't mean Aryan is a tribe. Is an it's called Indo-Europeans, like not the original Arabs. But Hitler was talking about them when he's talking about Aryans. Aryan is some kind of old, it's like where white people came from, because nobody knows.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't anti-disestablishment Aryanism, was that of Henry VIII?
Say that again.
Anti-disestablishment Aryanism.
Anti-disestablishment. First time I've heard that. I know about Aryanism. Aryanism wasn't nothing to do with your nationality, though. Aryanism in religion was to do with the Trinity. Aryanism in religion means that you believed in the Trinity, or you didn't believe in the Trinity. It's one of them, but it wasn't to do with your skin tone.
But basically,
in them days.
I don't think that was to do with skin tone. That was to do with when Henry VIII created the
Protestant church.
Protestant church.
He didn't. It was Martin
Because
Luther.
he wanted to get divorced.
It was Martin Luther that did that.
Oh, really? Not under the order of Henry VIII?
No, he was doing it before Henry VIII. Henry VIII joined him because he had no need to until he couldn't get divorced.
Yeah.
So when he could get divorced, then he joined Martin Luther's revolution. Martin Luther was going around pinning up fucking posters on trees saying, because he was the German guy, wasn't it? And he was going, I think he was a German priest, and he was going around saying these Pope are charging money for penance, like to go to heaven you have to pay money, and he was disgusted. So everything was money, pray this money, you want this funeral money, you got to, everything was money, and the priests were just making some paper in thingy. So my man decided fuck this shit, and he wrote that book, the Protestant thingy, the something to Protestantism, and then Henry VIII joined the Protestant. He created the Church of England, which was a form of Protestantism. Yeah. So it became known as Protestantism. Yeah. But I think that's where Arianism came from as well. Because I think the Pope or the Catholic Church, there's his mother and child. They don't really talk about mother, father, and son, which is the Holy Trinity. Not father, not Holy Spirit. The woman was taken away and turned into a Holy Spirit, I believe. You got the mother, the father, and the son, and they had the mother, they had the father, the son, and then they took the mother out and put the Holy Spirit. Because even though they act like they hate homosexuals, their religion seems very homocentric, based on the fact that they're taking out the women. Women ain't shit. You know what I mean? All the things that they were doing were taking out the sanctity. Whereas the older cultures like Egypt and stuff, the women were at the top, at least in spirituality. They were noticed for the importance what they fucking did. You get me? How can you cut out a woman when they give birth and shit? And you know what I mean? It's madness. Just because we're physically stronger. But they worshipped Madonna and Child, and then the Church of England did, or the Protestant Church, they went for the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and it probably was Mother back in the day, and then they changed it to Holy Spirit.
Right. I think we're gonna have to
Yeah, for real, because
When talk is the beats.